We've seen it up to 29, down to 22, hover around 25. What is coming next, sir?
The land of Arcadia.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And fortunately, as you can see over there on the other half of the screen, is Rob Kientz of GoldSilverPros.com. And it's interesting to see you, Rob. You're a rapidly rising star in the industry. I was talking with GR Silver today, and they were talking about Rob Kientz. I meet the great Jennifer Rankin in person over the weekend. She's talking Rob Kientz. So it's impressive what you've done. You had a conference this year, great site and YouTube channel. And with all that said, I appreciate you joining me here to talk a little silver, review some silver mining stock announcements as well, and cover a bunch of good stuff. So Rob, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Chris. How are you doing today?
Well, I am doing quite well. One last day in New Jersey.
There you
Then
go.
I'm going to begin my descent towards Texas. I'm going to show up at your door. I may have silver with me. I don't know. We'll see.
I think you should always have silver with you, Chris.
Yeah, well, I have, where did it go? Well, I'm packing up. I've been visiting my mom for 2 weeks here. I have the variety pack that Andy gave me when I was up in Minnesota. So as I'm like packing things up right now, I just took a nap this afternoon. There's a variety pack of silver coins. Asked him for one of each kind. It's like all sprawled over the bed. So it's kind of actually like Scrooge McDuck in DuckTales, where he's flipping through the gold.
Just dive in and roll around a little bit.
Yeah, can we build a silver pool in your backyard? Is the wife
Absolutely
cool with that?
Yeah, do we have enough silver to fill that up though? I may need to buy some more. I don't quite have that much.
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing here. Speaking of which, well, Rob, along those lines, tonight's episode is sponsored by Miles Franklin, where they have their red hot special of what would you say is a good price on American Eagles right now? Where would I get you to pick up the phone, Rob? What would
$6 over spot maybe.
What if I told you 509 over spot on American Eagles? Then you pick up the phone. You'd call.
I'd pick up the phone.
You'd email Yara at Arcadia@milesfranklin.com if I told you 509 over spot.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, then no, I'm just teasing. I'm not going to do anything that silly because I'm going to be doing something completely crazy and insane. Remember those old Crazy Eddie commercials? It's being back home in my New Jersey roots, bringing these things up. We're going to make it 479 over spot on this one. And by the way, if anybody does want to pick up those Eagles, you put Rob Kientz in the headline, and then that way we can make a donation to Gold Silver Pros and help support the great things Rob is doing.
Appreciate that.
So 479 over spot American Eagles. And Rob, let's see, what would that come out to today as we look at the silver chart here? Looks like about 24.40-ish on the Kitco today on a Monday evening. We've seen it up to 29, down to 22, hover around 25. What is coming next, sir?
Oh, I think silver price will rise. So we got the presidential election coming up here in a few weeks, and then we've got December contract deliveries on Comex. I think there's going to be a lot, and I think there's a lot of interest in the precious metals, no matter which way the election goes. So I'm full speed ahead on the bull market for silver. Next year, I think it's going to be really exciting.
Rob, would you say 100% chance, probability, election scoop that Ben Bernanke's printing press is going to be the winner? The ink salesman. I mean, does it really matter who wins in terms of, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not an expert in like the social issues of the day, but I mean, at least from the monetary standpoint, does it really matter?
No, I was just looking at a debt chart today, and it basically has gone vertical since earlier this year, since springtime. I think the Fed's balance sheet has like doubled this year from their entire balance sheet leading up to now to the last few months. So the amount of quantitative easing, it's quantitative easing forever to infinity. And if they stop now, the whole U.S. market's going to crash. We saw that Q4 2018 when Powell tried to tighten. We had a nice 20% correction in the stock market. They can't do it again. And to keep things going, in a post-COVID world, they're going to have to keep printing. unless, things get back to normal and businesses fully open up. But I think there's been a lot of damage done anyway. Restaurants shutting down, lots of industries being hurt, including the airlines. So I don't see any chance of them turning off the spigot anytime soon.
Yeah, well, Rob, you mentioned that they'd have to keep printing unless there was a recovery in the economy and people got back to work, although I'd like to challenge that if I may be so bold. Even now, when you set up an economy based on a Ponzi scheme of the Fed's printed money, I mean, it's impossible for that to happen. I mean, it can't happen because of what the Fed's been doing for the last 100 years. But let's even say that it did. Even if there were a recovery, would that even change I mean, even if you did have the restaurants open back up, that still isn't going to change that you have this. I was, Rob, we're playing a fun game these days over here on the Arcadia channel. Remember, today it's at 27.1 trillion, and we can make side bets by the way, Rob, we have a running gambling, kids at home. This is not advice. Don't go out and gamble and bet ounces of platinum against your friends in the light of encouragement. But, I mean, we could guess how much it'll be the next time. And it's impossible for it to stop for the same reasons that you mentioned what we saw in 2018. Is that correct?
It's pretty much correct. And I mean, COVID is really the cover for that. I've said that 100 times this year till I'm blue in the face. It was going to happen anyway. I think it just accelerated the vertical stage or the hockey stick stage of the debt chart. But yeah, they can't ever stop. And this is where we are. We're in the next to last final debt expansion before the Austrian crack-up boom. I think we're going to have a deflationary economy, which we're having right now. They're printing now, so they're in that last stage of the credit expansion, and then you're going to have the crack-up boom, and then you'll have the hyperinflation of the dollar, and they'll have to come out with something else. Are they going to revalue the dollar? Or are they going to go to some sort of Fed coin or cryptocurrency? I mean, who knows? But this system that we have right now is on its last legs.
Yeah, and Rob, there's been a couple of videos and stories over the last few days about IMF and a reset. Have you heard anything about that? Any can separate fact from fiction for us, perhaps?
Yeah, so I covered this a little bit on my channel. The IMF in 2015 put out a position paper on implementing digital currencies in the banking system so that they could do negative interest rates. And the reason they want to go to negative interest rates, not only on the debt, but on your deposits in your banking account, is so that they can pay for this mess that they've created since 1913 when the Fed came into existence. So that's pretty much their plan. And the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank are lining up, and Asia is lining up to do this. So they're going to try to implement these digital currencies, these negative interest rates. It's not going to be positive for you and me. Really, the only way to hide from that is to stay out of the banking system and save some of your wealth in gold and silver, in my opinion.
Alrighty. Well, speaking of which, it's interesting. Back on our debt clock chart, I've been tracking this dollar to silver ratio, which basically measures the amount of, in the current year, dollars to silver. When I started looking at it a couple of months ago, it was at 2105. And then it was funny when I pulled it up today, because it was just a few days ago, it was at 3,900. So the silver miners are not able to keep up with Ben, Jerome, Janet, and the other money changers in the temple. So Rob, you mentioned Comex deliveries. And I've been keeping a track of Comex and silver ETFs, which have actually slowed down a little bit, I guess you could say, at least to I mean, you had history set here. Again, this chart shows ETFs like SLV and others. Rob, did you know Deutsche Bank has a silver trust?
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me.
I'm sure you're gonna like send all of your silver, all those American Eagles you're buying. I'm sure you're gonna just have Deutsche Bank store it.
Oh, absolutely. Why not? I mean, Deutsche Bank is the most reliable bank, followed by JP Morgan. So why not? Let's just send all of our metals to them. I'm sure they'll be safe.
Yeah, well, just don't read those Deutsche Bank trader transcripts for how they were rigging the market and bragging about smashing the price. They might say for the folks that now say, well, was manipulated. It wasn't suppressed. Well, you can read these guys. They're not. It's like that scene in The Big Short when they go to Miami and the mortgage brokers are there and they're like, "Why are these guys confessing?" It's like, no, they're not confessing. They're bragging. Similar with Deutsche Bank and pummeling the silver price. But anyway, you can see, Rob, it slowed down a little, but this is still relatively large. And over on the Comex, again, here was that whopper 17,294 in July. A little bit. Any thoughts, Rob, on, I know some people thought September was going to blow out the Comex. Slowed down a little bit. What are you seeing there? I know you track that data pretty closely.
Yeah, I thought September would be a big month, and it actually kind of was. It just sort of flew under the radar. A lot of the contracts rolled over to December. Everybody's loaded up for December, and now in gold and silver, and next year in January and March a little bit. But December looks like the big month now, and I think given the amount of open interest that was on the Comex for September, there have been a lot of deliveries. But the pattern seems to be every other month have a big delivery month in the precious metals. And I think that's what's going to happen in December is we're going to have another big delivery month. And there's a whole bunch of open interest in gold. It's 450 something thousand last time I looked, and silver is 130,000 contracts. So if you even got a fraction of that standing for delivery in those months, there would be an absolute herd of metal taken off the market. And where are we going to get that metal? Where it's been coming from London. So there's been record inflows in 2020 from London, especially in gold, to the Comex, where that hasn't happened, for the last 5 years of available data. And that's where they're getting it. So gold's coming from London and it's coming through the Comex. They've ramped up. JP Morgan's holding half the gold available on Comex right now. They're going to put that up for delivery. So I think December, you see a lot of gold and silver come off the market. They've already built their inventories up and they're ready for it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Rob, did I have this chart up before when I was talking about it? I just realized I may not have hit the share button. Could you see?
You didn't, but let's talk about this chart some more.
Yeah, well, I guess just hopefully that made some sense what I was saying. But here you see this is the 2-year chart of the ETFs. It's slowed down a little bit. I'll back out to the 10-year. So, I mean, you see that cluster there. Still, I mean, this is what we've seen the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this one was a record setter. So
it's still a record amount that we've seen in the last year or so, even though it slowed down a bit. So there is a ton of metal, and it's being, I don't know if I want to say laundered through the Comex, but it's being moved through the Comex and then back out, the side door. A lot of wealthy individuals are building up their long positions, perceivably to take delivery in both the metals. I had that on my channel last week. You can see the other reportables, which are the rich individuals, the family offices, the trusts, the well-to-do are ramping up their long positions for December. So I think there's going to be some more metal taken off the market in December. And of course, the bullion banks are always there to take the metal as well.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that. And I guess, so we're looking about a month and a half away before that cycle begins, since we are in mid-October now. Alrighty, that sounds good. And Rob, in terms of the mining stocks, have a couple of news items from the last week here that, as our resident mining stock expert, if Kranzler's listening, he's going to get all jealous and catty when he hears it. It's like, wait a second. I love you
both.
Denver
Dave.
Yeah. Although Rob, First Majestic had earnings last week. And what do you see here?
They're just about up to same Q3 production they had last year. So Q2, they were down. They were still producing gold and silver. But they were down, obviously, because of the mine shutdowns and some other challenges that they had. But they got it Q3 just back, about the same, a little bit less year over year from what they had Q3 last year. So they're basically running full steam ahead. And of course, with the record gold prices that we have, or near record gold prices, they're doing very well. In fact, I was punching the numbers earlier today, and about 45% of their profits from Q3 is going to come from gold and about 55% from silver. That's actually good news because they're running about a 22-to-1 silver to gold production ratio. So if the price of silver ever rises, First Majestic's really just going to print money. And I expect the price of silver to rise quite a bit next year. So I think they're really in a good position. They've got just enough gold to make good money. And then when silver price rises, which I expect, they're going to make a lot more money.
Yeah, that will certainly be good news. And I'm sorry, this was their production report, not their earnings. Have their earnings are not quite out yet? I don't believe. Have not
No,
yet,
but
right?
you can extrapolate from the numbers overall revenues, not their earnings, but you can tell that they're doing very well year over year. So I
Okay.
don't think as much concern. I don't think investors should have any concern about First Majestic moving forward. I know there's been concern over the last quarter, partly because of the shutdowns. There was a tax issue there. They had some challenges, but I've spoken to First Majestic company personnel several times over the last few conferences we had, and they seem to be very positive. Now their production is back up. They're going to be making a ton of money when the earnings reports finally do come out. I would not worry whatsoever. They're basically back at full production. And they have great recovery rates, 94 to 95% recovery rates at most of their mines. And they have good profit margins. So if you're a First Majestic investor, I think you can breathe easy. I think they're out of the woods for right now. And I think it's only going to get better as the silver price rises.
Yeah, and I'm glad that because I saw this headline came out. It was Thursday or Friday. I got the email
Mm-hmm.
and was thinking I'd missed the earnings. Where I'm curious to see how these earnings turn out, especially at the higher price that you mentioned. So thank you for that First Majestic update. Then we have my friend John Lee here and Silver Elephant. What can you share on this one, Rob?
So Silver Elephant's a company that we profiled a month or so ago, and they have a really good project that has a lot of ounces. You can see there they're reporting 106.7 million ounces indicated, 13.1 million more inferred at their project. And that's the Pulacayo project in Bolivia. And those are some pretty good numbers. They just finished a 43-101, so this should be good numbers for investors to chew on. They've also got some zinc, some lead in there as well, which would be nice byproduct credits, gets their overall cost of mining down for the precious metals. So excellent. If you're a silver investor, this news should really help them out quite a bit. And I'm sure they're going to do some more drilling and find some more resources as well. So very, very positive news for Silver Elephant.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And Rob, could you explain for people that might be a little new to this? We were talking about earlier today, indicated, inferred.
Mm-hmm.
When they're hearing this, what exactly does that mean? And if you could walk through that, would be helpful.
So there are different mineral resource grades, Chris, on a mine, and really all it depends on is how much drilling you do and how confident you are in that resource. So proven and probable are the highest level reserves. Then you have measured and indicated, and then you have inferred. Generally, what's bankable are measured and indicated. So the fact that they have 106.7 million ounces indicated means they would be able to go and get financing for their project. If they do some additional drilling, they can move those resources over into the reserve category, which is proven and probable resources. And those are what's considered high confidence that they're exactly as they list them in presentation. But given the fact they have 106.7 million of indicated, that's enough for this to become a potentially really juicy target for a bigger producer to come in and buy them out. So they've just become an optionality play. Somebody may want to come buy out that resource, or Silver Elephant may want to continue to take that production and build their own mine. There's certainly a big enough resource there for them to do it. So really good optionality there based upon the resource they have in this report.
Well, I appreciate that. Actually talked with John Lee, recorded a call with him this morning, which will be coming right after the end of our call here, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. And last one is my friends over at Minaurum. And what could you say about this one?
So Minaurum is a prospect generator or discovery generator. What they do is they go out and look for mines or basically look for deposits, I'm sorry. And when they find something economic, package it up and either spin it off as a company or sell it to another producer. And this is a very profitable section of the industry because it costs a lot of money to mine. Sometimes you want to hand over that risk and that cost to a bigger producer, but there's value in people going out and finding a resource. So here you can see a report which they found almost 1,200 grams per ton silver, which is bonanza grade. in the Promontorio zone of their Alamo Silver project. They have other projects as well, which are doing very, very well. Promontorio has previous production. It's a really promising zone, so I don't think they'll have any problems as they continue to drill this out and get some additional resource for getting interest from a larger silver producer to come take this one on. They have tons of gold and copper as well, some really good gold copper projects. If you like gold, I'm bullish on all three metals. There needs to be a lot of copper in the world, especially for the Chinese middle class to rise up. I think we're going to have record amounts of copper production here in the next 4 to 5 years. So that's probably not talked about a lot as far as this company goes. But copper is a nice little sideline to have to the precious metals, the gold and the silver that they have already.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and actually reminds me of one of our recent mining stock tips that has been passed along here about just at least look at these projects. Be careful of what you know when you see the equivalents.
Mm-hmm.
They are different. Although, Rob, I heard there's actually a great site where if people want to learn things like this from an expert. There's not many people I've found out in the world that I would say I could consider as intelligent as you. You've kind of raised the bar. You're like in Cliff High territory of, I still wonder how you do all the things you do in a day and you have your family. But there's a guy out there as smart as Rob. He's created this site called GoldSilverPros.com. Actually, there's no one out there like Rob. It's his site. Rob, where do people find all your great research, all the things that you do to educate the investing world and save them from the vicious jaws of Keynesian economics?
You just go to goldsilverpros.com. You can go up to current research. We just released our fall quarterly newsletter for you guys. It's about a 5,000 page view on the economy and what's coming next for 2021.
5,000 pages?
Oh, 5,000 words, not 5,000 pages. Sorry. 5,000 words of good information. That's free for you guys. Coming in January, we're going to do our big mining stock review, and we're going to do a lot of other things as well. But go look at that research. It's free. We also have all of our current articles also up in current research. So just hit that current research button there at the top, and you'll find all the free materials available on the website to help educate you. And if there's any specific questions you have, I love answering emails. If you feel free to email me at the email address there at the top, robert@goldsilverpros.com. What I'm not able to answer in individual emails, I do put into a mailbag segment every quarter on the quarterly as well.
Well, Rob, I sure appreciate that. Folks, you can find out at goldsilverpros.com. You can just click the link in the description field below. So, Rob, thank you as always for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you on here, and it's quite inspirational just sitting here listening to your knowledge. So I thank you for that, and we will have to do this again soon.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to be on your show, Chris. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And folks at home, if you'd like to hear a little bit more about the silver elephant story there that Rob mentioned, that and a conversation with John Lee, who is running Silver Elephant, is coming your way now.